welcome everybody. So it's my job to chair this debate today, which I think is going to be very exciting. So can you hear me, everybody at the back? Excellent. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is introduce the dragons.
Hi, I'm Peter Maddox. I'm Director of RAP. One of the things I'm responsible for is managing the UK Plastics Pact, which has had loads of interest from businesses across the UK. The first goal of the UK Plastics Pact is to get rid of unnecessary and problematic packaging. And so I'm really, really interested to hear what these guys have got to say today.
Thanks, Peter. Dick Searle.
Hi, I'm Dick Searle. I'm Chief Executive of the Packaging Federation, which is the overarching trade association for the UK packaging industry. I'm passionate about packaging, and I'm just starting my 52nd year in the industry.
Thank you. David Newman.
Hi, I'm David, and I'm Managing Director of the Trade Association, which represents all those companies making biomaterials, such as compostable packaging. I've been in the waste industry for the last 20-odd years, and my passion is getting things right in the waste industry, which we are evidently not doing in the UK.
Thanks, David. Sian Sutherland.
Hi, I'm Sian Sutherland. I'm co-founder of A Plastic Planet. You can see us over there. We have one very simple goal at A Plastic Planet, which is to ignite and inspire the world to turn off the plastic tap. So we don't really want to talk about recycling so much. We don't really want to talk about circular economies. We want to talk about the dramatic reduction in the use of plastic for food and drink packaging.
Thanks, Sian. And Richard McKinley.
Hi, I'm Richard from Axion, Head of Circular Economy. We're a recycler and a consultancy specialising in the collection, sorting, recycling and end markets for various materials.
Fabulous. Right, so you've met the dragons. So first up, 3 minutes, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take some questions from the judges, from the dragons, and then we're going to put some questions out to the floor. So here we go. Lorenzo, break a leg, exactly. Good luck.
So, Transcend Packaging, we are the guys that won the contract from McDonald's of paper straws. So, increasing packaging sustainability with paper and bioresin. So, our industry has been static and reluctant to change. Cost was a barrier, now much less. The Blue Planet catalyzed regulation and public into action. That's probably why we are here. Reuse and recycling are key, but they present significant challenges and are not the only answer. Compostability is an important part of the solution. So where do we go from here? Single-use plastic products are under pressure. There will be a taxation soon. Alternative packaging solution will move towards recyclable, sustainable, and compostable materials. More investment in innovation, recycling, and composting infrastructure is required. Across the packaging landscape, paper is king again. Bioresin solution will become more relevant. So paper plus bioresin provide the solution, part of the solution. Paper is an immediately deployable solution wherever applicable. For example, paper straws. A wide range of plastic applications can be replaced with paper. It's both renewable, sustainable. The shift to paper is already happening because we see the price going up, by the way. Applications where paper can replace plastic. These are some examples. Paper for the on-the-go, use paper trays instead of PP and PET trays. Conventional and microwavable paper trays are available, just made of paper, instead of PET coated paper trays. Paper straws. Bioresin set to enhance sustainability. Bioresin can offer solutions on numerous applications. They are sustainable, compostable, and can bridge gaps between performance and recyclability, which is not always possible. Innovation in this area is key, more effort is required. This is one example of a product that contains paper and bioresin. It's a sugar pouch. Not by chance, because sugar taxation can indirectly offer a huge opportunity in sourcing monomer for bioresin. Majority is coming from Brazil. Brazil has both a sugar mill, refinery, and bioethanol fermentation plant on the same plants. So to switch to bioresin from bioethanol is an opportunity.
10 seconds.
10 seconds is finished. Ciao. I see you next year. Conclusion, recycling is important, but it will not be delivered overnight due to the required investment and infrastructures. Switch to paper whenever possible now. What else I said? Bioresin offer a solution. Use them especially when recycling is not effective. The public must learn, accept compromise. Transient Packaging has developed a supply chain or implement utilization of a new bioresin which are higher and performing than PLA, which is a nightmare to make.
Get him off!
I did 4 years and I hate it profoundly.
Very good. Well, typical Italian, full of passion. That's for sure. Right, come on. You're very good, very good. Apart from going over time, dragons. I want questions. To Lorenzo, please. Microphone, please. Go for it, David.
I didn't quite understand. The bioresins are the laminates which you use on the plastic. So you make plastic with bioresins as a laminate, yeah?
And also as a standalone material, rigid, inflexible packaging, coated to paper.
Okay, so what is your barrier to entering the market?
Well, at the if you ask this, if you were to a large high street consumer company brand owner and propose bioresin paper straws 6 months ago, beautiful, fantastic, cost too much. So a paper straw is potentially 5, 6, 7 times higher than a plastic straw. Nowadays, because of the hammering on television, because of the Blue Planet, so the main sponsor of this change is Sir David Attenborough. I hope he's here, because I will thank him very much. And obviously Michael Gove, who has announced that he's going to ban the plastic straws. So the change is the fact that the public has changed perspective. The customers are now prepared to spend more money.
Right.
To direct to this material.
Next, sorry, Lorenzo. Excellent. Next question, please.
Lorenzo, I'd just like to go back to that hot potato of the end of life and composting. And obviously on our stand, we've had a huge amount of conversations about compostables and the infrastructure. I'm very aware that right now only 9% of our plastic is recycled in the UK, and only 10% of our food waste is composted in the UK. So there's obviously huge scope for improvement on both. What's your view on which area we should put the most focus, or do you see it as very equal?
I think they're both important because recycling is, in all effect, easier to make. There are more infrastructure than composting, but it cannot be the only solution because by the time we will be equipped with the adequate number of infrastructure, we will still have 91% of the plastic, which will last probably 100 to 500 years on our beach. So, in my opinion, it has to be, an investment across the two options. Italy, in the north of Italy, we have lots of composting facilities. South, a little bit less, but it's not something unachievable. It's a question to make it happen. And to be perfectly honest, composting is also recycling.
Okay, right. Let's have a question from the floor. Hands up. Who's got a burning question, please? Gentleman in the blue shirt. Can you get a microphone to him, please? Can you say your name and then pose your question? Hello.
Yeah, I'm James. So you say, you talk a lot about paper, but I think a lot of us don't realize that paper has its own negatives as well. There's a huge amount of energy required for paper. This is all driving up the cost of paper. There's other options that of plastic that could be as sustainable, bio-PE and things like that. So it's easy to get carried away with paper, but really that's, I don't think we'll discuss the negatives enough.
Okay, thank you for your question.
Well,
Lorenzo.
To be perfectly honest, there is no a universal solution. It depends what we want. If you want less litter, definitely paper is better than plastic. But litter is also causing problem to the marine environment. We see what can happen, when the plastic straws was filmed in the nose of the turtle, for example. Paper has their, obviously, limitation. Obviously, you need to source from sustainable material. So,
one more question.
Yeah,
Peter.
I'd like to ask you about pick up Martin's point about the end of life. So what happens if you're a householder and you buy that pack and you haven't got a home composting facility?
Well, this is not recyclable. It will be landfilled, and we will become either CO2 or methane, depending if it goes underground or it stays overground. But for sure, it will degrade compared to PET, which lasts 500 years.
So you're obviously aware that paper in landfill is going to create a lot of methane, and plastics in landfill is not.
Yes, but it depends what you do, because there are many facilities, for example, in Bologna, where lots of rubbish is collected in methane, and the methane is used to light the city. Okay. So again, it depends how you want to deploy this resource, which is waste.
Fantastic.
There are many ways to deploy resource.
Lorenzo, thank you very much. Big hand for Lorenzo. Okay, we now have Gary T from FFP. Gary, if you'd like to take the stand. Thank you.
Please don't. Can't get it to work on my finger. Sweaty hands. Okay, I take it this is working.
Yeah, but you need to use the mic.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Starting now.
Excellent. Okay, right.
Go.
Okay, I'm Gary from FFP, and I'm here to hopefully inspire you on the potential evolution of flexible packaging. So FFP, just briefly, we're a flexible manufacturer and innovator, and we've been doing that for the past 50 years. We offer a lot of oil-based structures in our current portfolio, but we are looking to evolve that going forward. So examples of our current innovations would include the all-polyester ovenable cook in the bag, which we launched into Asda for chickens. We did the first post-consumer recycled lidding film, which we launched into M&S many years ago, well ahead of its time. We also developed the first pre-applied label reseal system, which helped reduce food waste, which was launched into Tesco's. And more recently, our fully printed ovenable doy bag, which we've since launched into Sainsbury's to challenge the CPET tray, lid and sleeve market. So why are we doing what we're doing? Well, we, like you, are very aware of the consumer's reaction to packaging and what happens when it's handled irresponsibly. So we decided to really look at our portfolio of products to see how we could do things differently. So we chose 3 typical structures that we would offer. So polyester and polythene will be one, OPP laminates, and OPP and polythene. And we looked to see what could we do differently with those materials to give our customers some real choice in the future. So we developed a range of 3 materials. We have them here, so you're welcome to see those afterwards. They're all wood-based, so it's a combination of paper and cellulose. So some are all cellulose-based, and some are paper and cellulose. They can be fully printed. They can be supplied as either pre-made pouches and bags or as roll stock, and we've ran these materials down horizontal and vertical form-fill packing lines. They have really good oxygen barrier and good water vapor barrier, so they're really functional materials. We've not got something here that theoretically will work. They'll actually deliver good pack performance. The packaging is widely suited to dried goods. Due to the materials we use, they're not going to work particularly well in a very wet environment. So we're looking at things like confectionery, crisps, snacks, pasta and rice, as well as cereals and grains. So as you can see, there's a wide variety of products that this particular packaging format could be used for. Our planned methods of disposal, now we're already doing work into these. On the paper, cellulose structure would be paper recycling, so we'd recover the paper fibres from the structure. And on the all cellulose structures, we would look ultimately for that to go to composting, no doubt through some food waste collection method in the future. So that was short and brief, but that's our vision on what could be the evolution of flexible packaging.
Fabulous. Well done. Grab a mic. Thank you, Gary. Really good. Questions from the panel, please. From the Dragons. Richard. Oh, no, Dick.
Only my mother called me Richard, and she died a few years ago.
Sorry.
When is plastic not plastic? Right? And for me, cellulose acetate is a plastic. it's a very old plastic. But I think the real question, since so much of the furore is about plastics ending up in the wrong place, particularly in the ocean, what's the scientific evidence of the performance of cellulose acetate in the ocean?
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah. Our definition of plastic is materials that aren't based on oil. Plastic is a state, and cellulose could be classified as a plastic. But in the general scheme of the Daily Mail, if you like, the Daily Mail, we're using the oil-based logic. Cellulose in the ocean. I've got Andy here from Futamura who could answer that question far better than I can.
Key point, it's not cellulose acetate, it's cellulose. Okay, so it's different.
Thank you, Andy.
Same question, what happens to it in the ocean? Whatever it's made of, what happens to it in the ocean?
Andy, do you want to answer that question as you're the expert? Give Andy the mic, please.
Well, I would actually mention it in my pitch a bit later on, but yeah, the materials are biodegradable, compostable, industrial, home, and marine.
Thank you very much.
To the standards that we know of at this moment, bearing in mind that marine is still evolving.
That's good to know. Thank you. Right, another question from the panel. Richard.
Thank you. So I've got a lovely metallized paper.
Yeah.
What will happen to this metallization? Is it a very, very small amount? Would you expect the consumer to understand what it is?
The metallization is a very, very thin layer applied to the cellulose. That cellulose is a fully compostable certificated grade. So the levels on there are permissible within the EN 13432 composting regulations.
Super top. Sean.
Just a super quick question about cost. Have you had much pushback on increased costs for this?
If we deal with buyers, then the answer is yes. I think we have to deal with brand owners and people who invest effort into what this can bring to their product. So we've got some serious conversations going on with brand owners currently that feel that investment in this type of packaging is worthwhile and relevant for their brand. But it ultimately costs more than conventional packaging.
Okay, question from the floor. Hands up fast. Anybody got a question for Gary? Come on. Anybody? Thank you. Oh, here we go. Thank you.
Does it give the same functionality and barrier properties as plastics do?
It doesn't give exactly the same. No, we've got very good oxygen barrier, 1 cc per square metre. Water vapour is 20 grams per square metre, so it does have good functional barriers, but it isn't going to be as durable as oil-based plastic materials would conventionally be. And that's why we're not encouraging it to be used in wet environments.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Gary. Big hand.
Okay, thank you.
Right, next up we have Marcel Assange from Bull Packaging. Marcel, good luck.
So let me do this for you.
Excuse me.
No,
Mine was the bottom one.
is it this one?
That's the one.
Bull. Is this PDF?
It's PDF. Should be just there. Just there.
Is it that one?
No, the middle. That's it. That's it.
That one?
She works the treat. Yeah.
Nope. I think
I have my laptop if you want.
Let me. Joel, yes. Could you help us, please? Windows P. Forgive us for this. Yes?
Any other questions for Gary while we're waiting?
I'm saying duplicate. There we go.
It's not a question for Gary. It's a question about 9% of plastics is recycled. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm sorry, I've got wrapped it next to me. No, plastics packaging is over 50%. Plastic beverage bottles is 74%, not 9%.
Correct.
That's a big difference.
If I may allow, Green Alliance published a report about 2 months ago. You can find it on our website. 35% of plastic packaging is recycled, of which 26 or 34% is recycled, of which 25 is exported. 9% is actually recycled in the UK. So those are the figures which I have seen published by Green Alliance, taken from government documents.
Thanks, David. Right.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. I had 3 minutes, so it's going to have to be quick. I'm here to talk about packaging
design there is nothing innovative about it, but I think in people's mind we have to reestablish that connection because, as David mentioned, solutions are being looked into completely different directions. And before we start talking about edible, degradable, invisible packaging, let's talk about something that is ready, available, and is the champion in terms of recyclability at the moment. So I'm going to try to quickly give some indications on the status of where we are at the moment with this formidable packaging. So I work for Ball. Ball is the world's leader or producer of aluminum cans. We have sites in UK. And in terms of people's choice, in terms of a beverage packaging, aluminum cans have natural barrier, which is fantastic for any type of product in terms of preservation. Is unbreakable, so it's shatterproof. It's something that other packages don't have. Glass when breaks is quite hazardous, and is look as a the first in line once we talk about replacing PET. So cans don't have the problem. Is absolutely optimal for cubing efficiency. So you can pack much more product per square meter with cans because of the shape, the cylindrical shape. So it's good for transport, saving carbon emissions on that level, shelving, everything else. In terms of application, it's suitable for any drink beverage, and we particularly produce anything from 150 mils to 1 liter. In Russia, they love to carry 1 liter beer cans, which is quite fantastic anyway. It's a lightweight product. Cans are really light, reduce the transportation. Also, once you finish, it's easy to transport. Waste management companies, becomes a quite easy to handle material. Because the shape of the neck is easy to fill as well. So for the whole production is a fine product. It chills faster. If you want to have a quick beer, a few minutes in the fridge, and you have a product with cold enough to drink. Provides long shelf life. Is one of the properties of metal because of the whole preservation. And most of all, is a monomaterial. Is aluminum can is made of a product that is aluminum is the third most abundant element in the crust of Earth. So is an easy material to source and also to use as a product. As I was saying, so and it's also the most abundant metal as well. So in terms of resources, we have supply of that for at least 300 years if you want to just use without recycling it. But of course, keeping recycle in the supply chain makes sense. At the moment, 75% of all aluminum that was produced since the first aluminum produced is still in circulation today. This cannot be said to other materials. 10 seconds. It's the world's most recyclable packaging. In UK, we have 72% recycling rate, and 95% of energy is saved when you recycle the packaging. And it was one of the most valuable materials as well. It's about 1,000 pounds a ton of material once you recycle that. So it's quite fantastic. So it's just positive for collection. Local authorities love to have this. It's the only material in the household that provides a positive net cost for local authorities. So it's the only one that gives something back and subsidize everything else. And that's it.
Well done. Hey. Well done, Marcel. Very good. Almost kept to time. Questions from the panel, from the Dragons. Richard.
Hi, Marcel.
Hello.
The environmental impact of primary aluminium is huge, far, far higher than virgin PET, I would have thought. Is there any innovations happening on the extraction and refining end to help lower that initial impact?
There's been some. Can you hear me? Yeah. There's been some development at the moment. It's still, I think, 2025 is going to be something you're going to be seeing. But in terms of the smelting, when you're extracting aluminum from the alumina, at the moment it's done with carbon-based material. So as output is CO2, but they're doing with inert material. So we're going to be releasing oxygen. So it's going to be a carbon-free, pretty much production level. So yeah, extraction is absolutely high intense in energy at the moment. So it's going to be better, and that's why we try to incentivize recycling. Because you save 95% of the energy used to produce that in the first place, so it makes totally sense to keep the material.
Another question from the panel?
Yeah, Marcel, yeah. So cans like this are used for commoditized drinks, really. They're not for niche drinks. So what about the cost elements compared with some of the other options for the packaging?
Cans have been used for a lot of, we're seeing more and more for all the products. It stopped being the soft drink and water, like we're seeing water, we're seeing wine, we're seeing champagne. So it's changed the perception of being a cheap, easy access, so it's changed a lot. Price-wise, there's no, I cannot discuss, commercial information, but it's not much difference. And in majority of the countries that have producer responsibility, cans are either the lowest cost for the producers, or sometimes are even negative cost, so producers get paid, get a rebate back by using aluminum cans compared to other materials.
One final question is there really no plastic in an aluminum can?
There's a, because metal is reactive, so there's a coating, a spray of coating, and then depending on the production, depending on who is supplying those cans, they can have different types of element. It's not a plastic, it's just a coating. It's less than what you have outside as a printing pigment, for example.
Thank you.
Nothing that will stop for being recycled.
Question from the floor. Hands up fast, please. Gentleman in the second row with the blue shirt.
So what do you think some of the key technological advances that cans could see to take some market share away from PET in the pack mix?
Everything, hopefully. We are aiming for this guy. No, I think we're seeing a lot of new breakthrough for supermarkets. Now we're seeing watering cans. So if watering cans can happen, it's happening hugely. Wines, is fantastic for events, fantastic for, if you're going to musical events, glass is not an option. People have to start to be revisited on those aspects.
David, question. Sorry, David, question from you.
I'm just sort of thinking that we're missing something here, and none of you have talked about prevention or reduction. And actually, shouldn't we be talking about? Well, we don't need water in a bloody can. We can get it out the tap. But why are you none of you talking about that?
I think it's a question like as for any packaging, we can not have any package for anything. As a general, let's stop buying things and let's grow our own crops and have our own milks and milk our own cows. We can do that. It's just a question like, it's about convenience. People buy. We sell in this country more PET in water than cola.
Thank you, Marcel Assan. Big hand, please. Very good. So next up we have. From Skipping Rocks, Lise Honsinger. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Good luck.
Let me just, sorry. So we're going to go back to...
Second one from bottom.
And you're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Lise from Skipping Rocks. We make Oho, which is a flexible packaging for liquids made from mostly seaweed. So get ready to think outside the box or the can or the bottle. So what is the material? As I said, mostly seaweed and other plant compounds, so it's completely natural and in fact edible. Not that we encourage you always to eat it. It degrades naturally, and this being the key point, in 4 to 6 weeks, just like a fruit peel or any other food type, and can go in your home compost. It uses less energy in its production process than making PET, and can contain any liquid. So we really think this is perfect for the instant consumption, or as someone mentioned earlier, the on-the-go market. So talking about our impact, lots of words here, but the key message is that we're different from something like PLA, which is also plant-based, however requires industrial composting to break down. We don't require that, and hey, it's seaweed, so fish can eat it if it ends up in the ocean. So how are we dealing? You might have seen on one slide it said short shelf life, which is absolutely one of the issues we have to deal with this product. The way we're dealing with that is we developed a machine that will make our packaging on site or close to site as possible. This machine will be in our office in a month's time, so come visit us and come see it. It's really exciting. It can produce in your local kitchen, and it means that you can transport in bulk, reducing transportation CO2, and then produce then and there to be able to sell to the consumer fresh that day. And talking about applications, people say, what can this be used for? It's a flexible packaging, it's non-resealable. Yes, there are thousands of applications for this, and these are some of the ones we've already been testing. So top left, working with fantastic people like Just Eat, who are helping us to get this into the sauce sachet space. Imagine replacing all your crappy little ketchup sachets and pots in your takeaway with our material. You won't even know the difference, and you can throw it away, and it has no impact. Running events, we've got lots of runners here. They care about the environment. Rather than taking 2 sips of a bottle and throwing it away, you can use this, chuck it away. Very small volume, can go in the compost. We've done it for juices, and we've even done it for booze. So we did a festival this summer, and it was great. Imagine popping your shot. Of course, mentioning applications, this is not for everything, and we're totally pro the use of reusables for when you can use them, but for when you can't carry a bottle with you because you're at an event or you've forgotten it, what do you grab? You grab an OHO. And finally, this is the next advance in our material. We're looking at applying it to cardboards to create a rigid packaging that is waterproof and greaseproof. This is still in R&D, but late stage R&D, and we are now looking for partners to take this up to the next stage of industrialization, and we hope to see this in 2019. So there you go. Thanks.
Well done. Well done. I'm going to grab a mic. Wow, I think we've just seen the future. Very exciting. Thank you, Lise. Questions from the panel. Sean.
Mine is a cheeky question, taking you even further into the future, because this is really exciting. Can you imagine a day where you could have a seaweed-lined bottle?
I would love to see that day, yes. Well, that's the first step with the cardboard boxes and cups. And the next step would have to be bottles. At the moment, the limiting factor is shelf life, and we do emphasize that because we want people to think differently about the supply chain and work out how you do it. But if you can bottle on site, then yes.
Yeah, and my second half of the question, cheekily, is could you freeze it?
Freezing, not so great, because as a natural material, it can rip when it unfreezes. So there is some water in the membrane, which makes it difficult. But that's why we're working with supply chain and changing the way that this whole system works. And what I was hoping you were going to ask is that can you see a future in which we have one of these everywhere? So that first machine you saw, it looks like it's going to be this sort of size, countertop, but like a small fridge. One day we want to see the Nespresso version where you can have it in every store and everywhere. And so people who make their own juices, or even Coca-Cola, can send their packaging their material in its raw form and fill it up with water on site.
Yeah, and I'm thinking also in the personal care market, think of the number of Unilever shampoo sachets.
Yeah, we don't mention that on there because we're not focusing on it right now, but we're absolutely testing, and we've been testing a bunch of Lush products because they're obviously very keen on sustainability. And yeah, if you could change in every hotel, get rid of every little bottle.
How cool.
Wow. There are loads of applications.
Richard.
Really, really interesting. How big can they go at the moment? Because they're all sort of sachet size we've seen.
Yeah, great question. So the biggest one we ever made was 2 liters large.
Wow.
But it's a practicality question, really. So the small ones we made for the shots are, as you've seen probably in social media, about 30 mils. These ones here are 80 mils. So these are the big ones we're making at the moment because it's not resealable. So you don't really want something where you would really want to reseal it. And there's some stat about 500 ml bottles of water that 50% of them get drunk within 5 minutes and get thrown away with water still in them. Yep. So maybe 80 mils isn't quite the right size, but 150, maybe that's the right size.
Can we have a question from the floor? I bet there's, yes. The gentleman sat. Hello.
Looks very serious.
He does, doesn't he? I think he works for a packaging company.
Straight at the end.
Okay, Paul Lenahan, Parkside Flexibles. Can the material be printed?
Good question. We're trying. Not at the moment. We can do basic printing with black and white, so simple logos. But we're working on it. We are an R&D company, so we're continuously trying to improve it. Other ways that we've dealt with the lack of printing currently is that we can make double layers. So you can have an outer layer and inner layer with a piece of rice paper in between it printed on, or otherwise labeling all around it. So on the materials around it.
I'd love to take more questions. No, I'm sorry. Oh, we've got 30 seconds. One more question. Sorry, no, not from you, Paul, from somebody else. Gentleman at the back. Alex, is that Alex? Alex. You're Alex, aren't you? Yes.
How does he know?
How does he know?
So my question is, how does this product perform in high ambient temperature conditions? So is a hot summer's day going to affect how fast my water degrades? Is this applicable for even hotter countries?
Yep. So it doesn't get impacted by heat. So you can take hot liquids, anything like that. It's not affected by heat. So hot summer's days are fine. And if I'm reading between the lines on your question about other countries, something we absolutely would like to one day take to the developing world. You already see people all over Africa and India drink out of sachets like this. So if we can replace that, and it's just about time. No one's actually asked me about cost, so I'll just give it to you for free. The information that is.
It's free.
The product itself is currently still obviously a premium product, but we believe that one day this can compete with plastic because seaweed itself is a massively abundant material that can be grown really fast and very well farmed, doesn't require fresh water, all sorts of brilliant sustainability things.
Wow.
And so long term, this should be able to compete with plastic on price.
Lise, absolutely amazing. Big hand. Okay, who have we got next? We have got Malcolm Allam from SIG. Good luck.
You are signature pack, yeah? That's me, yeah. No. Yes.
Go. Time is on. So, afternoon everybody, and Mr. Chairman, thanks for inviting me. Before I get to tell you about what we've done and how we did it, let's maybe have a look at why we needed to do it. So, you'll all be aware of these global trends facing all of us. There is a rapid population growth that's putting pressure on the consumption of fossil resources, as well as, importantly, on food resources, food and land resources. There is a depletion of the finite non-renewable feedstocks to make packaging. And climate change, even though climate change has kind of fallen off the agenda to be replaced by other topics, is still there. I mean, we all enjoyed a fantastic summer. You might think it was an abnormal summer. Raging forest fires in Scandinavia, people in Scotland running around in t-shirts and shorts at 8 o'clock in the evening, that's not normal. So it's, let's not forget that packaging role to play in also taking care of global warming, or addressing that trend, which is clearly also at the heart of what we do at SIG. Quick reminder of the current packaging. So a beverage pack, such as this one. Actually, this is the new one, but you'll recognise them. They already have a very low carbon footprint and a low environmental impact, as witnessed by several independently peer-reviewed LCAs. The standard pack is made 75% from paper, a renewable resource. We source all of our fiberboard in FSC from around the world. Last year, 88% of our 33 billion packs were from FSC source. We've also been, over the years, reducing the polymer, which in the standard pack is oil-based, and we've reduced that to the max. We've also been able to take out the aluminium for UHT milk drinks. And now, one step further, we're going to take out the aluminium completely. So, sorry, I'll put that last. Having gone from 75% in a normal pack to 82% renewable content in the previous non-aluminium pack, this package is the world's first aseptic carton pack to be made 100% from renewable plant-based material sources. So the paper obviously continues to come from the FSC suppliers, certified suppliers, and all of the polymer in this pack is coming from tall oil, which has been sourced from the European forestry industry. It used to be a byproduct of timber and paper production. Now we are utilizing this to replace the oil-based polymers in the pack. So the pack is now, as I mentioned, 100% from renewable materials. With every innovation, you always need a partner to get it going, and we're very happy to have partnered with Arla. And Arla have launched in Germany their organic milk, Bio-Vitamilch. Apologies for the terrible pronunciation. But this is now on the market, and they make the claims, happy to make the claims for their product on the side. It's 77% from is fibre, 23% from renewable resources, and with a 72% carbon reduction on a standard pack. So I'll give you the pack.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you, Malcolm. Very interesting. Good enough you could eat. Questions from the panel. David.
That's great. What's your return back to recycling? What's your return back to recovery? Is it through composting, organic recycling, or is it through mechanical recycling through paper?
No, this package has been designed to fit into the existing facilities. So it doesn't need to be composted. It can be collected with the others. It's in the beginning, we've done this to sponsor the growth of non-oil-based polymers. And we don't want to have a restriction where it has to be recycled specially. So
it's paper recycling. It's paper recycling.
Yeah. In the UK, it's recycled. It's collected and recycled by our partnership with Sunoco. I'll be careful to answer that question with my other hat on. So if I'm standing here, I'm talking for SIG. If I'm standing here, I'm talking for the Trade Association and the recycling company, which is common for the UK.
Thank you. Another question from the panel, please. Dick Searle.
Yes, I guess plastic is plastic. I mean, it's presumably polyethylene from plant-based material.
It's a bio-naphtha from the forestry industry.
Yeah. And I think that actually points up that the real issue that we face, it's not the material, it's what happens to it and what happens with leakage, etc., etc. Can you foresee a day when you find, we've seen sort of seaweed coatings and so on, that there is something which is fully properly biodegradable in the sense it doesn't do any harm being used in these kinds of packs?
Yeah, obviously this pack, I mentioned about food waste. I mean, this is ambient pack, so distribution without refrigeration and low waste. The barrier layer is a reformulated polymer, but we are working, like I say, we're sponsoring really the growth, or trying to pull this material into the supply chain. We are working with other suppliers on organic-based materials, yes.
Thank you, Malcolm. Question from the floor. Hands up. Anybody want to ask a question? This gentleman at the front. Thank you.
Andy Rees, Welsh Government. Could I just pin you down further on exactly how it's recycled? So in Wales, most of our authorities collect paper and cards separately. So are you saying this would go in that stream and the mills are happy to take this sort of material with plastic in it?
Yeah, again, to answer that on behalf of the Trade Association and not SIG, because the Trade Association of SIG, Elopak and Tetra Pak made it happen, and we now have 68% curbside coverage for collection of cartons to be recycled. What happens to the carton depends on the LA's contract. If they have a contract to export mixed paper, they do it. But we would say, contact the ACE UK and send it to Sunoco, where we've built a specific recycling mill for the beverage carton.
Okay, thank you very much. Have we? Sorry, 30 seconds. I'll take another question from the floor. Anybody? Quickly, please. From the panel. David.
Sorry to be a what's-its buster, but I was with Tetra Pak the other day at their presentation in Parliament. And when I asked them how much of their materials in the UK are actually recycled, they cited the 68% number. But they were not actually able to tell me how much of the tonnage they put onto the market is recycled. They also talked about the plant up in Yorkshire, which takes 25,000 tonnes a year. Well, I would assume Tetra Pak would put a lot more than 25,000 tonnes a year onto the market. So to come back to Andy Rees's point, do we know today, and can we give a figure of what is effectively recycled of these types of cartons in the UK?
The members put onto the market around about 50,000, so the mill has the capacity to recycle half. I think RAP's figure for recovery was recycling was 37%. So it is something which we would like to see get higher. It's not a technical difficulty. There's no chemicals, no boiling, nothing. It's simple to do. The collection and delivery system bring it to us and we'll recycle it.
Thank you, Malcolm. Big hand. Thank you. Right, last and by no means least, Andy Sweetman from Futamura.
Okay, thank you, everyone. It's very weird being part of a competition where you'd actually like to vote for every other person who's spoken as well. But we'll see what we can do. Our company manufactures a product called NatureFlex, which is a transparent, colored, white, or metallized film with technical properties in flexible packaging applications very similar to oriented PET or oriented polypropylene type films. We are sticklers within our business of making sure that any environmental claim we make is absolutely substantiated by independent verification. All of our forestry sources are FSC or PEFC certified. When we talk about compostability, we are certified industrial and home compostable to the key relevant norms. I mentioned marine earlier on, and I saw a little reaction there from Dick. What we've done is we've tested to ASTM-D 7081 marine biodegradation testing, but marine is still an evolving focus, so that's something that we will continue to work on and test further before we go out and make external claims about marine biodegradability. It's very, very suitable for a whole range of applications. And here's just a snapshot. It's fully commercial today. In the UK market, one of its best known applications is Quality Street, all of those coloured wrappers, but it goes through to grades laminated to other biomaterials to replace them, to replace conventional plastics in difficult to recycle applications. Now let me just talk about one of those in particular. If we take a coffee bag is technically brilliant. It is reverse printed polyester laminated to aluminium foil with polyethylene on the inside and an absolutely genius button valve to get rid of the gas. Okay? Absolute technical genius. Recycling disaster area. What we try to do then is look at these areas where conventional recycling is not practical and bring new solutions. So the pack you see here replaces the polyester and the aluminium foil with a NatureFlex film on the outside. It's laminated to a starch-based polymer material on the inside, and the button valve is compostable as well. So instead of having a recycling disaster, we have an organically recyclable pack. And that's what we're looking to do. What you see going on at the moment is our metallized film, which is one of the key components of this pack, actually biodegrading through a simulated home composting test. So it doesn't need any particular high temperatures to do this. It doesn't need particular conditions. As long as you bury it in soil or compost, it will biodegrade. By the way, it's important to say these things are totally shelf safe. They're food approved, and if they're sitting on a supermarket shelf, they'll stay there for 6 months, a year, 2 years. It's only when you put them in soil that you'll get the conditions which create biodegradation. So we're talking about a managed process, not about materials that are just designed to break down on the shelf. And perhaps the final word is just in terms of how we see these materials fit. What we're trying to achieve here, and other speakers it's the same thing, is a perfect fit within the circular economy. Take materials from nature, use them to reduce food waste, to get food to market safely, and then take them back with food waste and garden waste to create valuable compost and complete that natural circle, a true circular economy. Thank you.
Very good. Questions for Andy from the panel, please. Dick Searle.
Andy, I'm sure we would all acknowledge that the big issue is making sure that for those people who don't home compost, you can actually capture so it goes into the right waste stream. But going beyond that, chemical recycling is now starting to look more practical. Would you see that as also being a good route for contaminated products?
Well, on contaminated products, I honestly don't know, because I think those are technologies still evolving. I think the key message from us is we need a whole range of solutions. and depending on the application. And I think you'll see that more and more as our packaging industry matures on the whole waste management debate, is that we will look at the application and say, that is right for a recyclable material, that is right for an organically recyclable material, and we'll base it on that.
Got to say about the picking up the point from Dick about from a consumer perspective, a householder, it's yet another bit of confusing difficulties around recycling or composting. How do you think we're going to challenge that, tackle that?
Well, the key thing we have to work on is logistics. Okay, there's a bit of a myth that says there's no composting in this country. Actually, there is a lot of organic recycling in this country. What we need to do is label the materials effectively so that the consumer recognises them, so that the waste management company recycles them, so we recognise them in the same way, and then get them to the right methods of organic recycling. I'm hugely in favour of plastic recycling where it makes sense, where it's viable, in the same way where the application has high levels of food contamination and so on. That is the real sweet spot for organically recyclable materials.
David Newman.
Yeah, Andy, Dave Lewis, CEO of Tesco, wrote to me the other day and he said the waste management infrastructure of the UK is not fit for purpose. Would you agree with that?
I think I have to. And that is why this is an industry issue, and it's why our company are part of the BBIA, which is the Bio-Based and Biodegradable Industries Association. We are reaching out to local authorities, RAP, anybody involved in the whole infrastructure to get all of the pieces in place. It's not a lack of infrastructure at the end, it's logistical issues to get to that infrastructure which exists at the end.
Thank you. Now, can I ask gentleman right at the back with the beard? Don't know his name.
Hello, my name's Sam Robinson, and I'm a student at the Centre for Alternative Technology Sustainability. My question is really regarding I think it was alluded to just now in the questioners here in the experts. It's really that bioplastics, according to Jacqueline McGlade of the UN Environmental Programme, they sort of they behave pretty much like conventional plastics when they're in the marine environment, and they can persist for decades as well. They tend to sink, she says, rather than float, and by sinking, they're not sort of they're not able to be exposed to light like conventional plastics would be, so they don't tend to break up and they just pollute the marine environment, but in different ways for longer times.
Thank you for your question.
Well, I have to say that is a massive generalisation. There are a whole range of different materials. I'm only here today to speak about Natureflex, which I can tell you is biodegradable in every situation, including marine. Other materials have different degradation profiles, so it's all about the particular material. In the same way as we shouldn't talk about bioplastics, we shouldn't talk about just plastics, because there's a whole range of materials. So you need to get down to the specifics of the individual material.
Fantastic. There we go. Big hand for Andy. Very good, very good. So, shall I say a few words? Okay, so let's open it to the floor. Let's ask questions right out to the floor for the panel or the dragons. Has anybody got any questions? We're going to take 5 questions. So, all right, 1 minute per question. Hands up, please. Keep it brief, please. Gentleman on the front.
Hi, Andrew from Thornton's Budgeons, the supermarket. How do we reduce consumer confusion about all of this? Because as it is at the moment, it is kind of confusing what you do with things.
Yep.
And if things are compostable, and I can throw them on my compost in the garden, but I don't know it. So it's a very general question, but it's something that struck me all the way through this as there being a source of real potential confusion going forward.
I think that's a question for Shyam to answer, if you don't mind.
Well, as an organisation, we represent the public. Rather than an industry, we are one of the few people out here who's not actually selling anything. We're selling change. And one of the things that we've become very aware of in the last 2 years is there is massive consumer confusion about the word plastic. And a lot of you are packaging technologists and you're in the industry and you know what a bioplastic may be, and you know that maybe 2 kinds of bioplastic. As soon as we confuse the public, when we have this rare, incredible moment that we can affect some substantial change in our plastic pollution disaster, shame on us. So we must not confuse the public. And the reason that we have launched our plastic-free consumer trust mark is for exactly that reason. This is not an industry mark. This is not about recycling. This is to simply tell the customer one thing, that in their mind of what plastic is and how plastic behaves and exists for centuries as a micro and a nanoplastic, they don't want to buy something that has that plastic anymore. And our trust mark tells them this package is plastic free and that's it. So in our small way, we are just trying to cut through that confusion.
Thank you, Sian. Jane?
Yeah, so if I could just add to that, because I think the key question that there are consumers who are very concerned and would like that question answered, but for most consumers, it comes down to which bin do I need to put this in? And so that's where the on-pack recycling label helps channel people into that. We're very aware that currently the label has 3 categories. The one that says widely recycled is very clear where you put it. The one that says you can't recycle it is very clear where you put in it. The one in the middle is the confusing one, and we're looking to work with the sector as a whole to move to a binary system. So it's just a yes, I recycle it, no, I don't. We're very keen to talk to others about other solutions like can I compost it to add to that suite so that at a glance consumers get the right information.
Thank you very much. Another question from the floor. We've got last one. Last question. Come on. Gentleman, second row. Thank you.
I think it's related to the Plastic Planet statement at the start, was around circular economy and not talking about that as part of the solution. Do you not think that's slightly misleading and something that should be talked about?
I absolutely do, but I think there's a lot of people, a lot of people along this panel who already talk about that. And so it doesn't need another voice in that debate about plastic. We are not about demonizing plastic. We're simply about using less of it in certain applications. And for us, the excessive use of plastic packaging for our perishable food and drink is not defensible anymore. And it is the one that there are alternatives. So the reason I say we don't talk about those things is simply that we simply want to talk about turning off the plastic tap. Let's see if we can use a little less of it. Then we don't need to recycle it. Then we don't need a binary system on the back of pack.
Thank you. Dick Searle.
And this will be the final.
Final remark.
If food waste was a country, then global food waste would be the 3rd biggest carbon emitter in the world. As a trade association, it matters not a jot to me what the material is used to make the packaging. What matters to me is that the packaging does its job and protects food.
Yep.
And I can tell you, but I won't name them, of retailers who are already taking steps which they acknowledge will increase food waste, but they're doing it, quote, for the publicity, unquote. I think we have to be very, very careful that whatever we do and whatever solution we come up with, we do not sacrifice food waste, because a cheap and plentiful supply of food is not going to last in this country, particularly given some of the challenges politically we've got with Brexit
Thank
and
you,
other
Dick.
issues.
Can I have a big hand for the panelists and the judges? Thank you.